Big day today. The sheriff from Kentucky, accused in the case involving the judge in his chambers, made his first appearance in court. It was done via Zoom because everyone is spread all over the state of Kentucky, or at least Eastern Kentucky, because the courthouse where this happened is the place where the case would normally be tried. But that judge is gone. That sheriff is under arrest. He's in another county because he can't be held in the county where he's the sheriff in charge of all the inmates. So he's in another county. The judge is from another county. And then, of course, you've got the prosecutors who are specially appointed for this because the local prosecutor had to recuse himself. It was very complicated, but it turned into a Zoom appearance. But there was a lot of information that came out during this arraignment, and I'm going to go through it with you today based upon my experience. I'm Vinny Politan. I'm an attorney. I'm the lead anchor for Court TV. I'm also a former prosecutor. So we're going to break this down, everything that happened. You are watching Vinny Live.
Hey, get ready, get set, let's go.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live.
Oh,
So post inside the chat, get ready for the prosecutor hat, get set. To like and to subscribe, let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.
all right, here we go. Here we go. Great to have everyone aboard today. It's your first time. I'm Vinny Politan. I already said that. By the way, live streaming Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe on YouTube. Share it on Facebook. Retweet it on X. And twitch away on Twitch. Great to have you here. Okay, so this is a big story. This is a big case, and today was the first really big moment. Now the wheels of justice will begin to turn in this case. The wheels of justice. So your first appearance, it's an arraignment, and generally the purpose of it is to apprise you of the charges against you, to check to make sure you have counsel or are seeking counsel. Are you indigent? Do you need a public defender? All of that sort of stuff, because you've been taken into custody. Your liberty's been taken away, and there's an obligation on the government, the state, the Commonwealth to inform you of your rights and to let you know exactly what's going on. Not all defendants are as familiar, obviously, as this defendant is with the system of criminal justice, but it works the same for whoever you are. If you're a lawyer and you're arrested, the same thing is going to happen. If you're a judge and you're arrested, the same thing is going to happen. So, of course, it's going to happen to the sheriff of Letcher County, Kentucky, Mickey Steins, Sean Mickey Steins. And the backstory, I'll give it to you very quickly before we get into the arraignment. I'm going to show it to you, and we'll get into it piece by piece by piece so we can kind of pick apart the significance of what we're hearing. I think you know the story, but I'll just give you the short version of it. Letcher County, small county in Eastern Kentucky. One judge in town. There's a sheriff in town. They're both elected officials. They're friendly. They know each other. It's a community of less than 2,000, I guess, in the county seat of Letcher County, which is Whitesburg. So everybody knows each other. And if you're in the system of justice, obviously you know each other because you have to work together. And those relationships can be professional, but they can also be personal because it's such a small community. Like if you're working with someone in the courthouse and then you go to the couple of restaurants downtown, you may see someone you work with. It's just that kind of place. So it's almost as small as a community as you can get. It reminds me a little bit of the low country of South Carolina, but smaller. Like in the low country, it just seemed like there were major cities that were a lot closer than in this one. Very isolated. You're in the Appalachia, you've got the valleys, and this little Whitesburg, we've got images of it on Court TV. We sent the drone up in the sky, and you can see it's beautiful, but it's just like a little town in a valley, right? And that's the setting for it. So the story is that one day, the judge and the sheriff go out to lunch. They literally go to lunch together. Why? Apparently because they're friends. They come back to chambers, and then the sheriff asks to go speak with the judge, or goes and speaks with the judge privately, and they sort of shut the door. But there's surveillance cameras. I don't think there's audio, but surveillance cameras of everything that's happening here. And the allegation of what we've heard in the reporting from the locals is that the sheriff takes a look at the judge's phone. They're both seated, right? They're seated in chambers. The judge is behind his desk, and then you got the chairs in front of the desk. The sheriff is sitting down, and the judge hands his phone to the sheriff. And the sheriff has one phone in one hand and another phone in the other hand, and he's looking at the phone. And after he looks at the phone, he places it down on the judge's desk, stands up, walks around, and that's when folks hear the shots fired. Then as he's leaving, he goes, he picks up the phone, takes one more look at the judge's phone, puts it down again, walks out the side entrance of the courthouse, goes in the front entrance, surrenders himself, lays his service revolver on counsel table in the courtroom of all places, and is now in custody. The charges are as serious as they get. Potential capital case with the punishment that comes with a capital case. So all of that is on the table in this. So this is high stakes that we're talking about, the most serious as it gets. The one thing I'm not clear on, and I just saw a note here that they looked at each other's phones. I'm not sure about that. I've heard it both ways. I've seen that headline that they looked at each other's phones, but I've also seen reporting and heard reporting from people describing what happened, that the judge hands his phone to the sheriff. I don't remember hearing the sheriff giving his phone to the judge. That may be it. It's one or the other. But the one that I heard from, I think it was the clerk, the court clerk, who was relaying what he understood, and that's someone who works in the courthouse, obviously knows everybody, that the sheriff was looking at two phones back and forth. So the one thing that seems abundantly clear in all of this is that something that was on the judge's phone is what set off the sheriff. Okay? To me, that seems like it's something extremely personal. Extremely personal. I'll get to the significance of that in a little bit. But extremely personal, what is on that phone. So you go from that to then what happens. Now, the other backstory to all of this is that there's an ongoing lawsuit. And last night on my show, I spoke with the plaintiff's attorney. The sheriff is being sued and had been deposed 3 days earlier because of the actions of one of his deputies a couple of years ago, who has pleaded guilty to it, who apparently was using the judge's chambers after hours and engaged in the essay of inmates, female inmates who are on the monitor program, sort of, forcing them to do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. It's a big civil suit that's happening. There was a criminal case. The deputies pleaded guilty, but the sheriff is being named in the suit, not for engaging in essay, but for being the supervisor. And I spoke with the plaintiff's attorney, and he's like, 3 days prior, he's being deposed. Things are a little tense. And everyone's wondering if there's a connection. So you've got both sides. You've got the people involved in the civil suit looking at the criminal case to see if it's connected. And you get the people in the criminal case looking at the civil case to see if that is connected. So all of that is happening. It's a lot in such a small town. But to have essay and red rum in the judge's chambers in this small town, like, is that a coincidence? Could be, but might not be. Or it could be something else that was on the phone that was very personal. Rampant rumors. People will talk about it in the chat room. I'm not airing those rumors until I hear something in a courtroom, or I hear a statement or a court document that's been filed about this. Until that, because the rumors impact a man who's no longer with us, who has a family, who has children, and I don't know the source of these rumors, but I know if the rumors are true, they will seriously impact the case and the defense of this defendant. Okay, but to me it sounds personal. It sounds personal. The lawsuit, the reason I'm not buying into the lawsuit, and my guest sort of agreed last night, is that lawsuits are about money. If you're the sheriff, you could get sued a lot for the actions of your deputies. Is he being sued personally? Is it about money? Would he risk his liberty for money? I don't know. I don't think so. And the deputy pleaded guilty and didn't implicate the sheriff, is my understanding. The sheriff had nothing to do with it, and the judge had nothing to do with what was going on. It was the deputy, but who worked for, and ultimately the sheriff is the supervisor. So I think it's just much more personal. But I want to see or hear something in a courtroom before I start really talking about it at length. So I'm sure people in the chat room will talk about it. Okay, so let's get to today's first appearance. I want to show it to you because I think it's a significant moment. I'm not going to play it straight through. I'm going to do start, stop. So when I hear something that is significant, I'm just going to pause for a moment, give some of my analysis as a lawyer, as a former prosecutor, and as someone who's been covering the nation's highest profile cases for more than 2 decades now at Court TV. So here we go. Let's get to it. So everyone's in different places, so it's all kind of done over a Zoom. So let's take a. I think this is the right one. Let me see.
Court, is the Commonwealth present?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Judge Ramsey Dallum on behalf of the Commonwealth.
And Jackie Steele also on behalf of the Commonwealth, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And I see the defendant, is that the defendant at the Leslie County Detention Center?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who's standing next to him?
I'm Josh Miller, Public Defender of the Capital Trials Branch.
Danny Clark, jailer, Leslie County.
All right, thank you. And
First, let's start there. Let's start there with who is with the sheriff. I'm just going to back it up just a little bit so we can see it. So you've got a public defender on screen left, and then you've got the jailer on screen right. The one, I guess in charge of that jail. Again, the sheriff is not in Letcher County because the sheriff is in charge of Letcher County Jail. So he can't be jailed in the jail you're in charge of. That would be extremely wrong on many levels, ethically, probably legally. It's the ultimate conflict of interest. So you've got the jailer next to him. What's interesting is you look at this shot. He's not cuffed. He's charged with something as serious as it gets. So this is, I guess, kind of like an appearance virtually in a courtroom where he may or may not be cuffed. He's not cuffed here, but the jailer is right next to him, I guess, for security purposes. But throughout this, what I want to keep an eye on throughout the proceedings here is how the sheriff is being treated. Is he being treated any differently than anyone else? And I'm not sure, but I just think it's interesting that he is, there's 3 people involved here. So you've got this security on the right, the one who's in charge of incarcerating the sheriff, who's not cuffed. His legs may be shackled. I'm not sure. And then you've got his public defender next to him. And it's common in some places, in some jurisdictions with first appearances, people are locked up. In other places, they aren't. So it just goes to whatever the security, the sheriff, the jailer in that jurisdiction believes is best. So let's continue.
Clark, jailer, Leslie County.
all right, thank you. And has the defendant filed a petition for indigency?
Not at this point, Your Honor.
Okay. And what about the Commonwealth? Does Commonwealth want to make any statements before I proceed with arraignment?
No, Your Honor. Other than I don't know why Mr. Miller is present. If he's not filed out an agency paperwork, his office has not been appointed. I don't know that he has any reason to be here as in an official capacity as an attorney.
Right.
This is fascinating. Okay. I'm taking a hint here from the prosecutor for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. They are serious on this one because he's questioning why the public defender is even there. He hasn't filled out paperwork for the public defender. He has no standing. Why is this public defender standing next to the sheriff? Like the sheriff. Obviously, the sheriff is not indigent. The sheriff is the sheriff. He's making money, 6 figures. So why is a public defender next to him? This tells me that I don't think the Commonwealth is going to cut corners, is going to give any breaks at all to this defendant. They're setting the tone early here. Let's continue.
All right, Mr. Miller, do you believe that he's entitled to a public defender at this time?
I do, Your Honor.
And why is that?
This is a capital eligible case, and I believe that the cost of defending ethical defense of a capital eligible case will exceed his means.
Would you like to respond to that, Mr. Steele?
I would, Your Honor. A couple of things. One, I believe what he's telling me is that he's been out soliciting a client, which is obviously not allowed under our ethical obligations as attorneys. Two, even if he hasn't, if he has and he's been out trying to discern how much his financial capacities are, he's wasting state resources without an appointment. And this court is the party that appoints an attorney, not DPA, whatever division, just because they think he's going to need one.
Would you like to respond to that, Mr. Miller?
Your Honor, in cases like this, it is essential that a defense investigation start immediately, and I haven't solicited anything, but advised Mr. Steins of his rights, and if the court appoints this, we will represent him.
Is he still the sheriff of Leslie County?
At this point, I believe so.
Letcher.
He's still the sheriff of Letcher County, right? So this is, I want to tell you a couple things about what's happening here. Number one, you see the public defender sort of jumping into the case. Okay. I say this a lot about public defenders, and I was a prosecutor, but we need public defenders. They are really part of the backbone, the foundation to make sure that our system works and we keep everyone in check, right? But many of them are true believers. So he's jumping into a case with the sheriff. And remember who the sheriff is. The sheriff is someone who arrests people, tries to send people to jail, and is seen as part of law enforcement. The public defender is the one who defends generally the people that the sheriff arrests. Yet this public defender, obviously a true believer, understanding the gravity of all this, willing to jump into this case. But should he jump into the case before it's determined that the sheriff is even entitled to a public defender, like a taxpayer defense? And that's sort of what the prosecutor is jumping in here and saying. But let's listen to more of the conversation. I think what the public defender is saying, though, is that this is so serious and there's so much at stake here that when you defend a case like this, you've got to begin defending it immediately. And if this defendant's defense is delayed, he will be prejudiced. And that's the argument that he's making for jumping into the case as opposed to being appointed by the judge.
Letcher County.
Letcher County, I'm sorry.
Judge, I can't speak to that, and he currently is still the sheriff of Letcher County.
Yeah, well, I don't think he would qualify as an indigent defendant.
Someone just asked me, what do you mean by true believer? True believer. These are ones who believe in the calling of criminal defense attorneys, that everyone deserves their constitutional rights to be protected. It doesn't matter who you are. I will defend you if you've been accused by the government. Those are the true believers who aren't there to get experience, who aren't there to get a paycheck. They are there to fight for the constitutional rights of citizens, to make sure that if they are convicted, that the prosecution has done everything they're supposed to do and none of the rights of the accused has been violated. That's what I mean by true believers. And I've come across a lot of them in my career. I have a lot of respect for them because they can make a lot more money not working for the public defender's office and going out into private practice. They absolutely could in all different ways of making much more money as an attorney than being a public defender. But they do the work because a lot of them have this calling that they truly believe in the words that are written in the Constitution that protect those who are accused by the government. So that's what I mean there.
Well, sir, we're happy to, or Mr. Steins will put any paperwork, file anything that would help the court make that determination. Obviously, the court is the one that appoints us.
Has he filed an affidavit for indigency?
Not at this point, Your Honor.
All right, we'll proceed with formal arraignment. Are you Sean Steins?
Yes, sir.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. Have your silence can't be used to find you guilty. County attorney must prove your guilt, or the Commonwealth must prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to call witnesses on your behalf. You have the right to cross-examine witnesses called against you. You have the right to a speedy public trial by a jury of your peers. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, I'll appoint one to represent you. And you have the right to appeal any decision that I make. You're charged with murder, a capital offense here in Kentucky, a Class A felony, punishable by 20 to 50 years in prison, 25 years to life in prison, 25 years to life without the possibility of parole, and the possibility of the death penalty.
I told you, everything at stake in this case.
Do you have an attorney, Mr. Steins?
I have not hired one.
Have you tried to hire an attorney? Have you spoken to any attorneys about taking your case?
No, sir.
And are you telling me that you don't have the means to, do you not have the means? Do you own a home?
Yes.
Do you own any other real estate?
Got a place in Tennessee, but I still owe for it with the bank.
Yet, you know how much equity you have in your own home?
My home and my property is paid for.
And do you have an estimated value of that real property?
I think the PBA's got it on for about 45,000.
And what's your income?
It's based on statute. I think this year it was going to be 115.
Okay, $115,000 a year is what he's currently making until he loses his job as the sheriff. He's got a home and property worth $45,000. That's not indigency. That is not someone who's indigent, right? There's people coming to court, they don't have two nickels to rub together. Like, obviously, he's lived a relatively normal life as a small county sheriff. So he's making $115,000, which is probably pretty good for where he lives. Paid off his house. It's worth $45,000. So that's not classic indigency. So we'll see.
Do you have money savings, bank accounts?
I had a check-ins.
Sir, it's my understanding that he's in the process of losing his job as the sheriff of Letcher County, obviously, and will not have income going forward. His family is not prepared for this eventuality. And again, I think the cost of defending one of these cases can reach well into this several $100,000.
That's true. That's true. Several $100,000 for a defense. Does he have that money? Does he have friends? Will people raise money for him? Like, how is he gonna pay for that level of defense? Will someone do it because it's high profile? Does he have a friend that'll do it for a reduced amount? But you're also, there are going to be other expenses. Investigators, maybe he has friends. I don't know. But that's generally the ballpark for a case like this, especially if they seek the ultimate punishment, because then you need a mitigation specialist. There's a lot more that goes into it. So how is this going to play out, right? The state has unlimited resources. They always do. They always do. Like, they can put as many attorneys as they want on this. And this one has a special prosecutor who can focus on this and perhaps nothing else at the time. So we'll see, but let's see how the judge handles this.
You're entitled to, since you're charged with a felony, you're entitled to have a preliminary hearing within 10 days from the date of this arraignment. Do you believe you'll be able to obtain counsel to represent you on these charges within those 10 days?
I hope so. It's kind of hard, where I'm at, having contact with people I need to.
Okay, something interesting pointed out here by the sheriff, right? Again, he's in charge of the jail in Letcher County. By the way, hi, Tiger. If in fact you're incarcerated, like how do you coordinate defense? How do you talk to people? How do you reach out? Like generally, I think in most cases for people who don't get public defenders, it's your family that steps up, family. And if you don't have family, friends that have to step up and kind of make those contacts for you and make all that happen. I think, I mean, you get a call here, you get a call there, but it's not like you can like work the phones from inside. And that's what he's saying. So, and now you've got this is a big hearing. Okay. So in 10 days, the preliminary hearing he's entitled to, this is where a defendant has an opportunity to get an idea of some of the evidence against him. This is like, I think the sheriff understands the case here better than anyone. So I don't know what they're going to discover during this preliminary hearing. Would be much different, but you need counsel for that because counsel is going to question people, is going to cross-examine people, perhaps make motions. So at this preliminary hearing, which comes within 10 days, it's a big, big moment in the case. You want to have counsel during that. So can he put it all together here? Let's see.
The court recognizes that it is going to take a considerable amount of money to retain an attorney to represent you on this capital offense. However, I don't believe you do at this time qualify as for public assistance due to the fact that you aren't indigent. However, based on the circumstances of this case and the fact that we do need to have a preliminary hearing within 10 days, I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you for the limited purpose of assisting you at your preliminary hearing. If and when this case does proceed to circuit court, the circuit court may require you to hire your own counsel. Do you understand that, Mr. Steins?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, this is a big win for the sheriff. He's got a very competent public defender willing to jump in the case. The judges, all right, now I have to explain the setup of the court system, right? So when you're first arrested in Kentucky, apparently you go to district court, right? That's where you make your first appearance. That's where the state, the government, the Commonwealth has the obligation within 10 days to get in front of a judge and prove to the judge that there's enough evidence to hold you over, to bind you over, to send the case up to the circuit court, which is where the trial would be. So this judge, and in other jurisdictions, I've seen this as well, where they'll just do this. It's out of practicality and making sure everyone's constitutional rights are protected, that a limited appointment of the public defender to make sure that they can have this hearing so the judge can make a determination whether or not there's enough evidence to send it up to the circuit court. So it's limited appointment is what has just happened. This is a win for Steins, but it's also a win really for the Commonwealth because it's much less messy at this point. His constitutional rights will not be in question, right? Like if he doesn't get the public defender and he can't get a lawyer, it creates a mess, right? And the Commonwealth's got to come in and get their evidence in. But if he doesn't have a lawyer, is it really fair what is happening? So how do you sort of negotiate all this? So what the judge has done, and I've seen it in other cases where they do a limited appointment for the purposes of this hearing to see if the evidence exists to send it up. And let's be honest, there's going to be enough evidence to send it up, but they've got to put it on the record. And he has to have an opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses. So it looks like that's what the judge has done here. So this public defender, at this point, will be representing the sheriff.
I'll enter does he want to enter a plea at this time?
Your Honor, he would enter a plea if not guilty and request a date for preliminary hearing.
All right, we'll set the preliminary hearing next Tuesday, October the 1st at 1 o'clock in West Liberty, Kentucky.
Okay, big day. Mark your calendars. You're going to see that on Court TV. But let's get back to this. Something else that I'm interested in. Have you ever seen a defendant accused of something like this seem so comfortable at his first appearance? Incredibly comfortable. And what I'm thinking is he knew this is where you end up. Like when he took the action that he took, he knew what the process would be. He knew where he would end up. So none of this is a surprise. None of this is a shock. Like he understands the reality of what he was going to face as a result of his alleged actions here. This is not a surprise. There was a surrender, an immediate surrender. He knew what he did. He knew he had to surrender. So there's a level of comfort that I'm seeing from this defendant that you don't necessarily see from all, but you do see from some. So let's continue. We'll probably hear a little repeat here.
Yes, October 1st at 1 o'clock in West Liberty, Kentucky at the Morgan County Judicial Center.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else before we adjourn this hearing?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
No,
Just
Your
one
Honor.
thing, Judge. I do have one thing, Judge, just for clarification. In regards to transportation for the defendant, how would the court prefer? I don't care to do an order for that to be done.
I was thinking that we would have the state police post-8 transport if they would. I don't know that we'll need an order. I'll just request it. And if that's a problem, we can work out other transportation. Is that all?
Nothing further from our end, Your Honor.
All right. This hearing's adjourned.
Thank you. May we be excused, sir?
Yes, sir.
That's it. That's it. All right. So that's everything that happened here. So the big day, October 1st, the preliminary hearing, it appears he'll have the public defender at that moment, unless sometimes the appointment happens, but in the interim, an attorney is hired and comes into the case. I don't know the status of his family situation. We heard a little bit about his finances here, making $115,000. That's going to end soon. I've got to think there's going to be action to either suspend him without pay, or just outright have him taken off. And I don't know who has to do that. I don't know if it's the county government or if it's the governor. I don't know who does that in Kentucky. But it seems like that would likely happen. The thing's on video. So I did see one comment. I apologize. I don't know who did it, but talking about the fact that it's strange that he pleads not guilty, even though it's on video. All right. I'll spend a little time on that. So, and I questioned this too. I said, I didn't know, like, in his mind, what was going on in his mind at the time. Like, this is it. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to sacrifice the rest of my life for it. Right. And I'll just plead guilty because I did it and I wanted to do it. And I did it for a good reason. Not a lawful reason, but I did it for a good reason. If that was the case, because it's so unusual, I was wondering if there would be some talk of a quick guilty plea just to the charges, which likely wouldn't be accepted and wouldn't be allowed anyway at this point. probably has to take place up in circuit court. So it's more of going through the motions. This, like, it happens every time. Not guilty plea is entered. Sometimes the judge, if you don't have an attorney, the judge enters it for you. So at that level, at the district level, in a case this serious, you're not going to have a guilty charge, a guilty plea. Will there be a guilty plea in this case? Well, will there be negotiations? I don't know. It depends upon the evidence. After listening to that prosecutor, I'm not thinking so, because look at this. I mean, a lot of people are looking at the motive. Let's look at the victim. Let's look at where this happened. It's going to be difficult for a prosecutor in this case to offer a deal to a sheriff where the victim's a judge and the crime scene is the courthouse. That would undermine a lot of people's trust in the system. So that's why I don't suspect that there's going to be much negotiating in any of this, unless the negotiation is whether or not you get life without parole versus the more serious punishment, right? D-pen versus LWOP, life without parole versus the D-pen, the row, right? To me, that's the only negotiation that could possibly take place, not the other negotiation, which I think is what this case is going to be all about. Okay, so I'm going to get to your comments in just a minute, but I just wanted to cover one more thing that I think is really significant here in the legal analysis of this case. In Kentucky, red rum is what he's charged with. I'm saying it backwards. Red rum is what he's charged with. And in that case, he's facing all of those possible penalties. But there is, where is it? I have it here. Oh, here we go. There is a defense. A person shall be not guilty of red rum if he acted under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance. Extreme emotional disturbance for which there was a reasonable explanation or excuse. The reasonableness of which is to be determined from the viewpoint of a person in the defendant's situation under the circumstances as the defendant believed them to be. Did you follow that? So it's a defense to red rum in Kentucky, right? A person is not guilty of red rum if he acted under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance. Well, if what was on the phone was that personal and would cause extreme emotional disturbance, we're onto something here as to what this case is going to be about, for which there was a reasonable explanation or excuse, right? Okay. Is that a reasonable explanation for your actions? What you saw on that phone? Well, how do you determine what's reasonable? It's not what's reasonable to a third party. It's what's reasonable to the person who is reading whatever they're looking at on the phone. So the jury has to put themselves in the shoes of the sheriff. And from his perspective, were his actions reasonable under the circumstances based upon his extreme emotional disturbance? That's a big opening. Depending upon what's on that phone and the level of how personal it is and how much it emotionally disturbed the sheriff. And I think we just look at the scenario. It had to be a lot for him to take those actions because he knows what's going to happen. This isn't temporary insanity. This is a defense, but it's not a complete defense to criminal liability. What this does is it takes it from red rum down to manslaughter. Red rum to manslaughter. Okay? And the difference is a potential sentence sending you to the row versus 10 to 20. Manslaughter 10 to 20 in Kentucky. red rum, life without parole, or you end up on the row. So that's, from my perspective, legally, what this case is going to be all about, is this extreme emotional disturbance. Now, could it be so extreme that the jury says, no harm, no foul here? Possibly. That would be, I think, jury nullification, because regardless of what's on there, you can't act as judge, jury, and executioner all at once, like legally. But a jury can sort of make a statement and say, well, I would have done the same thing. I can understand it. Let him go, based upon what's on that phone. That's why this whole case comes down to what is on the phone. The whole case, the whole thing. All right. So that's my legal analysis of what the most important evidence appears to be. The question is, will we find out next Tuesday, October 1st, in that courtroom, what was on the phone? I suspect the defense wants to get that into the court of public opinion. I suspect they want to. It's evidence in the case. It's fair cross-examination. So that's the, right now, the $1 million question. All right. Thank you to everyone for your participation in the chat. What I do generally is I scroll through, sometimes quickly, because I'm always behind. Like right now, I'm like 40 minutes behind. I start in the beginning because I don't want to miss any comments to sort of jump out at me. So it may take just a little while to catch up here as I skip through. Gen X, great job as one of our mods. We appreciate everyone from Kentucky showing up. Obviously, a huge story in Kentucky, but it's a huge story across the nation. Frankie Figs, other mod, saying hello to another mod, Jennifer Sube. Hey, sister. Hey, sister. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see who is here today. Was it his service revolver? I believe so. He laid it down on the table. I believe so. But it's not confirmed. We'll find out for sure, I would believe, on Tuesday. Okay. All right, Jeffrey C. Reportedly worst word ever. Okay, I'll tell you what. Reportedly. So I'll give you because I'm in the media. Where does the word reportedly come from? It's different than allegedly. Reportedly is some other news organization has reported this. So sometimes, whether it's the New York Times, the Washington Times, the Boston Globe, ABC News, Court TV, someone reports something, and maybe they have an exclusive. Maybe they're first ones to report it. Other organizations may refer to that reporting and say, reportedly. We have not been able to independently verify any of this, but ABC News is reporting this, and then you would say reportedly. It's just a word you use in our industry. I know people don't like it. It's different than allegedly. Allegedly is when someone's been accused of something. Someone's been accused of something, but it hasn't been proven in a court of law, or it hasn't been admitted to by the person who's been accused of it. Then you have allegedly, right? So he's right now, the sheriff has allegedly taken the life of the judge. Now, it seems pretty clear that he did, but right now it's just allegations. He has not admitted to it. We have not seen a video of it. If I see a video of it, I don't think I have to say allegedly anymore, because I've seen, I can report on something I see, right? But now there's always, is it AI, right? So that's going to change as well in the future. But that's the difference between allegedly and reportedly. Okay. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Juanita, will we get to watch this trial? Yes, Juanita. This is Kentucky. Unless they stray away from a long history in the state, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we will see it. This is one of the states where they have transparency and allow the public to see what's happening in their government. Paletta, yes, he was not wearing his sheriff's uniform. We do not know yet if the service weapon was used correct. But my understanding and what I've heard from local folks is that the sheriff is on duty 24/7. Like the sheriff, he doesn't clock out. You're the sheriff 24/7. So I would think he would use his service weapon 24/7, but I may be wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see a lot of people are talking about this very personal potential motive in all of this that a lot of people are talking about. Good reminder from Gen X. Please censor some of the spicy words for YouTube with asterisks. Clever spelling. It will help your comments stay out of the filters. Absolutely. And it just helps everything. All right. I should be here on the 1st, Mammy. I should be here on the 1st. Sue Forte. I agree with you, Vinny. It would have to be deeply personal for the sheriff to give up his freedom and his family for doing what he's accused of. So look at it this way too. It's going to bankrupt him. These things bankrupt you as well. So if you're a provider for your family, this is going to put you in a financial position that you've never been in before. Yeah, he's got the public defender for this prelim, but I don't know if it goes up to the circuit judge is going to give him a public defender. Like, this is not someone who is indigent. Yeah, it's going to cost a lot, but you're going to have to either find the money or find someone who will do it for less. That's the way our system works. And that's the one slight inequity in our law. Everyone's entitled to a defense. They're entitled to the counsel of their choosing. But in reality, not everyone can get whoever they want, right? The defense attorney has to agree to it, meaning like some will do it, but do it for a price. Now, in a high profile case like this, the good news for the judge is, not for the judge, for the sheriff, is that some lawyers will do it for a reduced fee. He's got to know people. He's got to be friendly with people. So even if he can't pay for it, there might be someone who will jump in and do it for him. We've seen that before. There's also the opportunity. And again, this is not what we do at Court TV, but there are media organizations who pay for things like access to information, images, people, interviews. So if someone from his family were to give an exclusive interview and license some family photos, like that woman did down in Central Florida, you can get a lot of money and pay for your attorney. Jose Baez, who represented the woman accused of murdering, Kaylee Marie Anthony, got $250,000 from ABC News. That $250,000 went straight to Jose Baez. That's how he got paid. ABC News, not directly, but indirectly paid for her defense. So in a case like this, that could happen as well. You know what else is happening right now? The streaming services and production companies are cutting deals. Look at the Long Island Lisk, the Gilgo Beach guy. His family apparently cut a deal. They're allowed to. So they're getting lots of money flowing into the family. His family could cut a deal right now with one of the streaming services. So they get the exclusive. And trust me, the streaming service right now is knocking on their door. They're knocking on the door right now. They're knocking on the door. So you can pay for the defense that way as well in these high profile cases. That's just the world we live in. So don't be shocked. Don't be surprised. If they're going to pay the family of an accused serial offender, they will certainly pay the family of someone here who may be motivated by something very personal that some people may find most people would find extremely outrageous, and some might say may actually justify the actions. So don't be surprised if that happens. I'm just laying out the reality. Where I work, Court TV, We don't pay. I mean, we pay the people like me on the air, but the guests we have on every night, we don't pay. We don't pay one of them. They come on and they sort of share their expertise. They get some exposure, which is nice for them. I hope it helps them in their things, but they help us a lot. And I'm very thankful for the experts who come on, the lawyers and the experts who come on my program every night. So that's the reality of all of this. So I think that's where we are. Okay. Let's see.
Time to get happy. It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile. Because here comes McSpunky.
All right, McSpunky is here. Sup, brother? What is up, my brother? And the reason I love McSpunky is he's so great to everyone in the chats every day, but just the photo just oozes. We're in the midst of all of this misery a lot of times in the midst of true crime stories and true crime storytelling, that it just gives us like a little intermezzo, a little break, a moment to smile. So always appreciated. Thank you, McSpunky. Thank you, McSpunky. Great to see you today. I like having that. It's needed. People a lot of time ask me, how do you do this? Day in and day out, year after year. Now it's decade after decade. I find moments to break away from it. I take moments to smile. If there's things happening in the midst of a horrific trial, if there's a moment to smile, I try to smile. And it happens in a courtroom. It happens with victims' families. There are moments where you can just break away from it just to catch a breath, And I think that's what McSpunky provides to the live stream, amazingly. Okay, let's see who else. People commenting on the no cuffs. Maze the 13 Bella, great to see you. Che bella. Tu sei Italiano. No cuffs. But I've seen that in other jurisdictions. I don't know what the normal protocol is in that particular jurisdiction for the first appearance, but there were no cuffs there for the sheriff. And Linda Lou asking the ultimate question, which is, what was his motive? Exactly. To me, that's what the whole case is about. Now, prosecutors don't have to prove it. This is really a defense issue. Prosecutors, not an element of the crime. It's not an element that they have to prove. Don't have to prove motive. As a matter of fact, they may want to stay away from it in this case. They may want to stay away from the defense. I think all their focus will be on the motive in all of this, because that motive, depending upon what it is, could reduce the charge or have a jury just look the other way. That's to me, that's what the case will ultimately be about. Thank you so much. All right. I'm so far behind. I'm 30 minutes behind, and I don't want to run out of time here. The phone, the judge's phone will absolutely be evidence. There's no doubt. So I'm going through so quickly here. I can't even see who it was that posted it. Jennifer Sube is hungry. One of our administrators. I'm hungry too. It is lunchtime. I ate before. So I didn't want to be on here and be hungry. Hello to everyone on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X who is watching. I'm looking for some X comments, by the way. Always like to get at least one X comment in if I can find it. It all depends on the algorithm. It all depends upon the algorithm, how many people are watching, who gets notified when we go live. All right, let's see. Still skimming. I'm trying to get closer to where we are in real time on the comments. But I'm seeing a lot of names, a lot of good comments, a lot of good questions. The one thing about the sheriff knew what was going to happen here. He didn't try to get away with it. Surrendered himself immediately. Wait a minute. Is this a Twitch comment? I think it's the first time I put a Twitch comment up. Tiger Girl 420 on Twitch. You don't understand. Twitch is like, that's where all the gamers are. It's not the world of true crime yet. But it's so hard to break through on Twitch. But great to see Tiger Girl 420. I just had to feature that just because I hadn't seen one from Twitch yet. All right. Marcia Self here. No way could an attorney be ready within 10 days. Well, you're not ready for a trial. This is just probable cause. This is just enough to send it up. So the prosecution has to be ready and a defense attorney can be ready. And let me tell you how. In every case, and especially in this case, there's one person who knows more than anyone else about this case. And that's the sheriff. Sheriff Steins knows more about this case than anyone. He knows the why of it. He knows exactly what happened. He knows what preceded this. He knows about the backstory, any relationships. He knows everything about his relationship. It's the prosecution who doesn't know everything right now. But the defense will know everything because the defendant knows everything. And he can sit down for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes, and his attorney will know more than the prosecution. How about that? How about that? In this case, the defense on day one, as we sit here right now, they know more than the prosecution. They will always, in this case, the defense will always know more than the prosecution. Period. That's the nature of this case. That's the nature of this case. Okay, this is the big question today, and I've seen it more than once. I'll address it. D. Berlin, can you explain why he would plead not guilty? Is it because he's hoping the jury will find him not guilty? He's in district court. First of all, the district court judge is not going to accept a guilty plea to a case of this nature. It's got to get up to the circuit court in front of the trial judge. That's number one. Number two, there's an issue here. He may admit his criminal liability, but he may say, no, this was an extreme emotional disturbance, which does not equal red rum, but which equals manslaughter, which is not life or life on the row waiting for the needle. It's 10 to 20. So there may be a difference in what each side believes the liability is here. And I agree. I don't think he's going to think that he's not guilty here. I mean, a jury may turn the other cheek based upon whatever was on that phone, depending upon how disturbing it is to the jury. But the level of liability here is what I believe the case will ultimately be about. And there's a big difference between 10 years and life without. 10 years, he's in his 50s. Could still walk his daughter down the aisle, unless she gets married before then. So that's why you had it. Number one, the district court is not going to accept it. Number two, I think this defense is not going to accept, will likely not plead guilty to red rum. I just don't think they will. The only possible plea deal would be taking the D pen off the table. And for those of you who don't understand my vernacular, you'll get used to it. I'm trying to be consistent with it. All right, Sue Forte. But Vinny, he shot 8 times. That's overkill, crime of passion. Right. That may actually help him. That may play into the emotional disturbance, the extreme emotional disturbance. Out of his mind. Not legally insane, but out of his mind. There's no argument for legal insanity here because he immediately surrenders. He knew what he did was wrong. He could tell the difference between right and wrong. He knows you're not supposed to do this, which is why he walked out like this and laid down the weapon inside the courtroom. So, crime of passion, yes. Passion provocation, in Kentucky, extreme emotional disturbance. Extreme emotional disturbance. There's an audio recording that's floating around online. I should have grabbed it. But someone, I believe, recorded so you can hear the shots. So you can hear the shots from one recording, and apparently there's video of another one. So the whole case is about what was on that phone. Okay, June. Hi, Vinny. Is it a crime of passion? Actually, second degree. Here's what we're looking at. My reading of Kentucky law is that extreme emotional disturbance is a defense to red rum, knocks it down to MS. I'm going to start calling it MS because they may pick up on that as well. Strikes it down to MS. All right. And that's a big difference, but that's the language, extreme emotional disturbance. That's what the statute says. Here, should I put it up? Let's see if I'll try to put it up on the screen. This is just going to take a minute. If you have a minute, I'll try to put this on the screen for you. All right. I will try to put this on the screen for you. Let me get back here. I've got to do something else. It's a little tricky with the what I'm working with here. 1 second. Here we go. All right. One moment. Please stand by. I will attempt to put the law up for you right now so you can read it for yourself. Dun, dun, dun. All right. A person shall be found not guilty under this subsection if he acted under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance for which there was a reasonable explanation or excuse. The reasonableness of which is to be determined from the viewpoint of the person. This is important. It's not from a third party's viewpoint. It's from the viewpoint of the sheriff under the circumstances as the sheriff believed them to be. So let's do this. Let me just hide this comment so we can see what MS is. Person is guilty of MS in the first degree with intent to cause of another person. He or she causes of such person or third person under circumstances which do not constitute red rum because he or she acts under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance. So extreme emotional disturbance is manslaughter. That's 10 to 20. That's 10 to 20. Okay. All right, so I see a question here, and I'm going to pop this up real quick. Justifiable homicide? No. Justifiable homicide would be self-defense. There you'd need evidence that you were in fear of your own safety, your own life, of extreme bodily injury or. So that's where you get into justifiable. That's really self-defense. This is not a self-defense case. This is an unarmed judge who may or may not have been wearing his robe. I don't even know if he's wearing his robe. So not justifiable. This is different than justifiable. Much more different. So all right, now I gotta get this. I'm gonna take this off the screen now so you can see me. And I will hide it. There we go. Okay, now we're back. We're back. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Because I want this to make sense. There's a lot of misinformation floating around. I'm just reading the statutes. I don't practice law in Kentucky. I never did. I've covered trials there, but I covered trials in 50 states, and each state has their own nuance in the way they've crafted their criminal statutes. Woman of Steel. This guy seems like he thinks he did the right thing. Do you think he wants to tell his side due to the NG plea? No, I think I've explained the NG plea. I think is automatic, number one. Does he want to explain? He may tell his side. And to me, you may not have to tell his side, right? If whatever's on that phone is so beyond the pale that it would shock even the jury, the defense could make the argument even without the sheriff uttering a word on the stand. But I think it's stronger if he does. I think. But it may not be necessary depending upon what's on the phone. It's all about what's on the phone. That's just the bottom line here. And I'll tell you what you're going to see, depending upon what it is. And if the rumors turn out to be true, you are going to see a groundswell of support for the sheriff, believe it or not. You will. You absolutely will. I think you're seeing it already online. And that's going to be I think a conversation that society is going to be having. And our, I think across our nation, people are going to be, this is going to be one of those stories that is going to cross over into people like, maybe over Thanksgiving, say, hey, what about that sheriff? What do you think? Do you think that was, justified? Like, it's not legally justifiable, but was it morally justifiable? Do you understand it? Do you want to punish him? And, it all comes down to something that we don't know right now, which is the most important part of this case. I think it's open shut to prove the elements of the crime. But then is there anything that mitigates it, which mitigates the mindset of the judge, the mens rea, the why of it, what is going through his mind? Vicki Thomas, prayers for Florida with the hurricane. Yes, absolutely. I have family down in Florida. And yeah, I think they're prepared though. I think we're getting much better at preparing for those things, but sometimes Mother Nature has a mind of her own. So our thoughts are with all the folks down in Florida. Vicki, thank you for sending those prayers to all our friends down in Florida. We've got Mystic Angel. Thank you so much, Mystic Angel. I'm trying to figure out, is that a violin, guitar, or a ukulele? Can't quite tell. I'm going to say it's a fiddle. I think you're fiddling. Is she a fiddler? All right. Where are we? All right, I'm getting closer to getting current with the comments. I've scrolled past a lot. I'm sorry. Look at Billy Moore. Vinny got all excited about Twitch. Well, the reason being, Billy, the backstory is we've been streaming on Twitch, and sometimes we get 3 viewers on Twitch, and I've never gotten a comment. So we know YouTube is all in, Billy. We know you guys are all in. We're just trying to get through to the Twitch community. But my understanding is Twitch does a really good job of notifying you. So even if you're not going to watch on Twitch, if you follow on Twitch, you may have a better chance of getting the notification. I hear things. And I have a feeling, again, depending upon what we hear, this sheriff is going to get a lot of public support, which is why I believe if it is as outrageous as some suspect it might be, what's on that phone, it may very well come out during that prelim. Brooklyn Janet. Brooklyn in the house. Sheriff destroyed his life and the lives of his family. He could have exposed judge's misdeeds, publicly embarrassed judge, and walk away. Your thoughts? Brooklyn Janet, I agree 10,000%. 10,000%. And if any of those rumors are true, after reading the law in Kentucky, it may have been criminal behavior. And the sheriff and the oath of the judge in those circumstances is to arrest. Now, while he may not be able to personally arrest because it may be connected to him, he obviously could provide that information somewhere for all that to be done. If that's the case, and we don't know, this could be related to that civil lawsuit, which would be unrelated, I think, to anyone's family or anyone's children. But this is the problem. This is the problem because his family now has been impacted by this, right? The judge's family has been devastated by this, and the community and the trust of the people who elected him has been, there are a lot of violations by the actions of this sheriff. And it's going to take a lot for me to feel that they were justified. So I don't think anything would make me feel like it's justified because that's not the way our system works. But is it understandable? I think is the next level down, right? Justified is, oh, okay, self-defense. That's not this. Understandable. Okay, maybe mitigate his state of mind. Like you can understand it. So maybe it's not red rum, it's MS. But thank you, Brooklyn Janet. You make some incredible points that I think everyone has to keep in mind throughout this story, this case, this now potential trial that will happen on Court TV. Sam's Rock Collection and More with a super sticker. Thanks so much. Oh, that's a tiny rock. That's almost a pebble, but probably too big for a pebble. Maybe a rock. Could be a good skimming rock there. It's kind of thin. I think I could skim that one, but probably too valuable to skim. Thanks so much, Sam. Appreciate it. Ashley Bouchard every day, working it. Let's lighten the moods for positivity. Are you still a boy band stan, Vinny? Yes, I believe in boy bands. I'm a fan of boy bands. The guys from Korea, extremely talented. But me, I'm old school. I go back to NKOTB before they were NKOTB. The new kids, love the new kids. Who doesn't love the new kids? Backstreet, yeah. NSYNC, not as much as Backstreet, but like them. Yeah, I think we need a revival of the boy band world. But thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it. April Diaz, just hi and hope you're having a great day. I am. Everyone has to understand this is the work that I do. So the news is never great in the world. You understand that because you follow true crime as well. But you have to be able to understand that and separate that from your overall moods. Otherwise, you couldn't do the work. You couldn't do the work. So you have to have that divider. And for me, the divider is, to me, keeping our system of justice honest and making sure that the system is honest, the truth is sought inside the courtroom, and call out the bad actors, whoever they are, on whichever side, and make sure that the victim's rights are not shortchanged. But April, yes, having a great day. Also did not know you could just walk into the judge's chambers. My father was a judge, okay? Federal judge. The way it worked was locked door video camera to get into the overall chambers. And then within the chambers, there's like the greeting area. Then there's like an area with the judge that can have a closed door, and then an area on the other side. Each judge has my father had the button. He presses the button from his chambers. The U.S. Marshals storm into the chambers immediately as they can get there. They're in the building, so they will storm in. So judges would have that button. But if you're the sheriff and you just went to lunch with the guy and you're friends with him and it's a small town, yeah, you can just walk in. But to walk into the sheriff's chambers, there's not going to be security to keep you out because the sheriff is the security. But there may be a locked door to get into the chambers. Now, I don't know the layout of his chambers, if it was one big room or separate rooms. It seems that the judge in his private chambers was able to close the door. And from my experience, that is the same in courthouses across the country, state, local, and federal. So to walk in most circumstances, you've got to get buzzed in. And then once you get in, you don't go immediately into the judge's part of the chambers. That requires the next level. So, but he doesn't have but he or she doesn't have an armed guard in there. That does not exist. That does not exist. But generally in the courthouses, not in this courthouse though, there's metal detectors. All right, I'm almost current. I'm just 5 minutes behind right now. Let's see. Okay, Emily Wilson. Vinny, what are some of your favorite non-true crime hobbies? Simple. Pickleball, yes, absolutely. I started playing baseball again. Love it. Used to play a lot of basketball, but because my show's on at night, I can't play in the men's league anymore. So I picked up pickleball, which I can play in the mornings. Baseball, I play a little bit on the weekends during baseball season. Love that. And I also love playing with family movies, family photos, and things like that. So that's basically my hobbies. Thank you, Emily. All right, we're almost. Wait. Jennifer Sube loves Gina Maria Italiano's name. Who doesn't love Gina Maria Italiano? Paisan. Amazing. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button for all our YouTubers. By the way, we hit over 3,500 on our simulcast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X today. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. So, all right, I am now currently current. Taylor, Vinny, did you grow up speaking Italian? No. I had really good friends that did, but I took Italian. I took Italian in high school. So, and I also took a little bit in college, but never spent time overseas studying it. So I never really got good at it. Good enough to read a menu is the way I like to describe it. Gen X reminding everyone tonight, closing arguments with Vinny Politan, 8 o'clock on Court TV, obviously talking about this case. We're also going to do on Vinny Politan Investigates at 9, P. Diddy, the P. Diddy case. We're going to dive into that as well. Yesterday, another accuser coming forward. In that case, another civil lawsuit against Diddy, but obviously facing much more serious charges in federal court. So we'll take a deep dive into the latest Diddy information tonight at 9 o'clock. 8 o'clock, we'll be talking about Kentucky Matt Johnson, Court TV crime and justice correspondent on the ground in Kentucky. We'll have all the latest for us on that as well. So that's all happening. We've also got Ashley Bouchard wants to do a blood sugar check. Don't forget, folks, I'm a type 1 diabetic. So if you ever see me like passing out, that would be why. If I stop making sense, it's probably a low blood sugar, probably dipping below 80, down to 70, 60. If you hear alarms going off, because I have all these devices, it's probably in the 50s. If I seem lethargic, it's probably 180 into the 200s. And if I'm just cruising along, it's somewhere between probably 80 and 140 or so. So right now it's time, before we go, we like to do this. You can guess my blood sugar. What is the exact number? And as soon as I see the correct answer, I will pop it on the screen. You don't win anything yet. We don't have any prizes other than recognizing it. What is Vinny's blood sugar right now? What is his blood sugar right now? I did eat lunch, but it was not high in carbohydrates. I had a ribeye, bone-in ribeye for lunch, but I ate before this, so that usually elevates your blood sugar a little bit anyway. Waiting for that correct guess. Waiting for that correct guess. We're seeing it all over the place, all over the place. I've seen one that's been sort of close, but not exactly. Nah, not exactly. I see a post from X. That's nice. But no, I have not seen the right number yet. I have not seen the right number yet. I will tell you this. It's over 100 and it's under 150. Boom. How's that? Over 100, under 150. Who is going to win the blood sugar game here? Will anyone win before we run out of time? Don't forget to watch me tonight on Court TV. Again, I'm watching all of the guesses here. All right, we're getting closer now that I narrowed it. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Oh, we're getting closer. There's a lot of people are right in the ballpark. Some people are off by like 1. I've seen people off by 1 and off by 2. Oh my goodness. It's just one of those numbers nobody is guessing. Interesting. Interesting. Still, nobody has it. Nobody has it. Let me see. Wow. Oh, nope, that's not it. Wrong one. They're going so fast that someone had it, and then I lost them. Where was it? Oh, here we go. Boom! Janice Thompson, you are our winner. 139 in the blood sugar. You can see exactly when I ate on the graph. If you look on the graph as it goes up, That is lunch, folks, and it's starting to come back down. I peaked around 142 during the podcast. Congratulations to Janice. All right. Thanks for playing the blood sugar game. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our moderators, Gen X, Frankie Figs, and of course, Jennifer Sube. I'm Vinny Politan. I will see you tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV. In the meantime, have a great day. Don't forget to hug the kids. And as I leave you, you can continue to comment as we listen to my theme song. Don't forget to hug the kids.
Ready, get set, let's go.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready to post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set to like and to subscribe. Let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.